Hey guys, Damien here. As I continue to interview the top MSPs in the world, one thing has become incredibly clear. It's time that we let go. Even more than that, every time I focus on my zone of genius and get out of the way and do the very few things I'm good at and delegate to others, I'm ready for that next level of growth. So if you're ready for that next level of growth, one way that I could help you is with Servosity. We co-manage your backups and disaster recovery so you can focus on what you do best, let us do the rest, and then what we do is we test the backups every single day so you never have to worry. If you'd like to learn more, click the link below.
It's amazing when you talk to yourself differently, like how your mind changes right away. And this is one of my areas of passion. The biggest thing people, including myself, need to work on it is this self-criticism, self-judgment, being perfectionist. That's something if we can work on and be comfortable with failing at things and knowing that that effort actually matters, you're going to move on and you're going to be successful. And that's what I would love to tell my kids one day, that your failure is really a step towards success.
Hey guys, Damien Stevens, host of MSP Mindset. And today I continue my mission to interview 100 of the fastest growing and most interesting MSPs on the planet. Today, I'm joined by Kayvan Yazd. Now, he went from sleeping in till 11 a.m. to joining the 5 a.m. club. Once he realized that external success only comes from internal change, which catapulted him to the #1 MSP in the San Francisco Bay Area. What's more is he built this habit into the DNA of his culture, which helped his team grow like none other. If you want to go from talking about culture to making change in people's lives, don't miss out on our conversation today. So tell me why taking your health seriously is important and maybe how that's changed.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really, I want to say, saddens me when I go to IT events is all these hardworking, really, really hardworking Americans coming together, spending 12 to 14 hours, 16 hours, 6 days per week sometimes of their time into something which is beautiful. That's the spirit of the country and everything. But at the same time, they're always thinking that there's going to be something better in the future. I need to put in everything today. I'm going to let go of my health. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to be stressed out, but they're, behind that mountain, there's something, and I'm going to get there. And that's partially true. But when I see the level of stress, level of anxiety right now, mental health is a big thing. Not only for employees, but also for employers and owners. I see it up close in our meetings when we have our accountability groups and the meetings, and I see people not being grounded, checking 400 things at the same time, and being anxious. And then I kind of ask myself, all right, we do all this hard work for what? For what is really the purpose of all this? And why are we missing out on the now? Now is a big thing for me. And I've worked on myself to make sure working out and things that I have passion for, body movement, whatever it is for you. It could be, for me, it's playing soccer and going to the gym. Those are the two things that I really enjoy. For someone else, it's playing basketball and walking for 1 hour every day. That is as important as my goals and rocks and to-do list, which is a never-ending thing from my work. So that the goal for me is being grounded, to find balance, to put things in perspective. I've definitely seen I'm a much happier person. I'm more I make better decisions when I have those things. And you don't need to work 12 hours. If you work 6 hours and you have better decisions and you're more optimized, I think your output might be even better. For sure, it would be better. So that's something. Fitness is a big thing for me as well. I want to be fit. And you want to feel good about yourself, really, that's a very important thing. It's about confidence. It's about and you are a leader. So whatever you exude on a daily basis to your team, they're going to pick it up. Those are some of the things. I want to say mental is a big one, groundedness, and just fitness. Those are really important things which is the foundation to make better decisions. And I'll give you examples. We were talking about this, MSPs, right? Every day we have these cases of, is this client staying? Are they leaving? There was a time where like you would get a little pit in your stomach. Right now, you tell me half of our clients are leaving. Well, I don't know about half, but maybe that's an exaggeration. But I'll be like, all right, that's like accepted as part of, as we say, the only constant in life is change. So it's kind of part of that flow that people are going to come and go. You're going to go up and down. So working out, meditation, music for me, those are really the things that kind of ground me and put things in perspective.
Why do you think, you've been in a lot of peer groups, why do you think we put health last? Why we put mindset, meditation, even paying ourselves as owners last?
I think that is a very big problem we have overall in our society right now. Looking at, I have a lot of my friends that are managers and directors in bigger companies, and I go to their homes. Sometimes I work there from their homes, and I see them on meetings, and I'm looking at these people. A lot of them are anxious. A lot of them are, and these are people that are making good money. We're in the Bay Area. You're making 200, 300K. Like, this is like nothing for them. But at the end of the day, they're always worried about, how do I pay my mortgage? How do I do this? How do I do that? I think some of it is part of the system right now. I think the system we have right now in place, especially in the US. I would say Europe is a little more balanced compared to US. There are some areas when you go to UK, they kind of have the same thing, but when you go to Italy and some other countries, it's a lot more balanced. We've become this culture of wanting more and expanding materially. That's really, and this could be the byproduct of capitalism. We can dig into that a little bit, but I think we are really at a phase we need a check back and see how we can balance some of these things. Social media has definitely not helped. Social media, we are in a dangerous path with social media. I personally have I don't have an Instagram or anything like that. I've minimized my social media. Anything we have is probably related to work and because of marketing and stuff that we need. But I would say social media is a big one. Society overall, we've become a society of wanting more and more. And there's a sense of, to me, when I look at things, there's just a sense of superficiality about things, like people. And one of the most beautiful things that I heard in my life was the things that you cannot see actually are the things that make you happy, not the things that you see. Meaning material stuff at the end of the day are not going to be something that is going to matter. It's going to be your connection. It's going to be your family. It's going to be love. And we hear about these things, but a lot of people are not really buying into it too much. Okay, it's something that is out there, and it's hard. You gotta flow. You gotta swim against the river if you want to go to that level. You gotta read the right books. You gotta listen to the right podcasts. You gotta surround yourself by the people that I would say they're a little more evolved or elevated mentally. But if you go with the flow, that's what's going to be. How can I add this? How can I make this bigger? How can I add more revenue? And you forget about yourself and the now, the moment, and with that comes a lot of stress and thinking, and your mind takes over, and there's a lot of things that happen after that.
You said before that you were putting revenue first and maybe working out, for example, taking care of yourself second. Was there a moment or a pain point or a mindset that caused you to shift?
I read this statement. There's a little line from this book, which I know later on you're going to ask me, what is the book I'm reading right now? So I'll tell you right now what the book I'm reading, which is not the question, but it's because I want to. It's called Take the Stairs. And it's by, have you heard of the book, Take the Stairs by Rory Vaden?
Yeah.
One of my randomly got introduced to him, and his story is pretty actually amazing. But one of the things that really stood out to me in that book was, if you do not get comfortable with the fact that there's always a task list out there and you're not going to complete it, you're not going to ever be fully happy, and you're going to be always anxious and thinking about, how can I get to that task list? It's an illusion. It's really an illusion. And that I kind of experienced that myself about 3-4 years ago. I had all the things that I needed to do. And then, of course, you go to an event and come back, you have 5 more items that you want to implement.
Yeah.
Then I realized I was leaving work at the time. This was pre-COVID, like at 6, 7 p.m. And I've always been passionate about working out. So I would still go to the gym at like 7 or 8 p.m., but then I would be home at 10, like minimize time with my wife, or maybe 9, 9:30. Then I'm like, you know what? This task list is not going to end. I need to get comfortable with this. And that's the word he uses. You need to get comfortable with this. And that's going to be the reality. So now what I do is, I try to get up a little earlier. And then by 3 p.m., I like to be at least done with the main things. And 3 p.m., it's not every day, it's like 3 days per week. Regardless of what's going on, I just stop it. I get my pre-workout, and it's a nice routine, like just getting into the car, listening to music, having my pre-workout, getting to the gym. It's very meditative for me, that in itself. Because sometimes people tell me, how about you do it at home? I'm like, no, actually, I really like that routine. That ritual is very meditative to me. And then, it was just that fact that understanding you be comfortable to not completing all of your tasks. That's an illusion to me. And that's really hard, because you're thinking about it. Now I found myself, I don't even think about it anymore. I come back, all right, whatever is left, because it's not really it's not really my highest priority. It's something that kind of supplements my life, and I'm going to do my best. But if it's okay, if it's not finished, it's not going to be ever finished.
Yeah. So was there a tactic that helped you let go, or was it the mindset shift that you'll never be done, or something else helped you disconnect more and not worry about the unfinished
That's
items?
A good question. I think first and foremost was, I kind of started observing myself to see, how do I miss my gym? What happens when I miss my gym? I realized these are the days that I was like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., you're already tired. Certain days I get up at 5:30 a.m. And you're always asking, and a lot of owners and founders have that. You want more and more from yourself. You have the highest expectation, right? You got to be kind to yourself. You got to ask yourself. There was a day I told myself, dude, you got up at 5 a.m. You did your routine in the morning, the ritual, and then you've been working for 8, 9 hours. What do you expect from your body? Like, what do you think you are? You're tapped out today. Like, you can't go to the gym. Get over it. So I gradually started observing what really works best for me. And I realized, like, right after lunch or around lunchtime, it really works for me the best. Like, I don't miss my gym when I go there. So there was a time that I would go and I would come back and continue working. But that would be like, I would continue to like 8 p.m. because by the time I was back, it was like 4 p.m., like 2 to 4. So that's still there. Sometimes I do that, but my gym is optimized now. I have the highest energy when I go there. And then after a while, I thought, all right, I'm going to change it to 3 p.m. and I'm going to be done. And there's another routine that really helped me. There is I read this in a book, and I don't know if you're probably familiar with Robin Sharma. I think it was Robin Sharma's book, maybe the 5 a.m. Club, maybe, or one of his other books. I don't remember it was him, but there's a shutdown routine that you need to have yourself, that you say, I'm done, and the day for me. You actually repeat that to yourself, and you have a routine. Some people close a bunch of windows. They repeat it to themselves. For me, I haven't been the best doing it, but one thing that I do is, we have timesheets for our work. We use ConnectWise for our stuff, and I still put my hours. For one thing, for me, that has become a routine to kind of, all right, I'm done, is actually a completely fill up my timesheet. that becomes like a routine. I'm done. I'm not going to open up my computer. That's another important thing. So that routine really helped me understanding that my gym, I'm most happy and my body's most optimized when I go around this time. That also really helped me. So I gradually moved to almost like afternoons, early afternoons, and I decided, yeah, there's going to be out days that I might put in 5-6 hours only, but that's how it's going to be. This is my priority. So combination of all these factors and just reminders for myself that this is what works for me. And Damien, one of the most important things I've seen, I'm I would say I'm a pretty good observant of other people's life. I have friends that do sales, Bay Area, but when I look at their life, I'm like, I don't want to live like that. I really don't. And when they come in and hang out, and they always ask me, how do you do this? How do you go to the gym? Oh my God, I wish I could do that. Then I realized what I have is the most important asset. This is the bigger asset, right? That discipline of going to the gym, that discipline of being able to detach, just the detachment itself. So they've been teaching me a lot. For me, just observing their life, it's been pretty amazing. So that they also teach me as well. So that I thank them in a direct and indirect way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the shutdown routine. Whatever it is for you, I think it's too easy in any walk of life, but especially if we're used to anything technology, sales. Just there's always open loops. There's always another email. There's always another ticket. There's always something. So to have a shutdown routine where you know that's it, whether filling out your timesheet, shutting your computer, shutting your windows, whatever it is, I think is beautiful. Did you see internal change first before you started to see the change in the business?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's my number one message to everybody that's kind of my passion at the same time, is if you need to change internally first in order to externally see the changes and change externally. And that literally happened to us. We started business. I mean, the business unofficially started in 2010 when the name was created. And then around 2014, we got our first office. So we can consider 2014 a beginning of our business, or the official start of our business. The biggest lesson I learned on the very early days of being a co-founder of an MSP or any business, I would say, is you need to change yourself. You need to break some of your beliefs, break that ceiling you have in your mind, all those limitations. So that was the first thing that I started working on, and I think we talked about it a little bit. So it started with the early mornings. That was the biggest change that really changed me internally significantly, and that was my morning routine. Morning routine really was a game changer for me. I was a guy who loved nights, and I love to sleep. I love to sleep, and I don't feel guilty about it. I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time that I realized I'm 30 at the time. All right, so it's not 20s anymore; it's 30s. Because another illusion we have, Damien, is we think we have so much time. Like, oh, wow, you're 20, you're 30, we got time. And then you probably have noticed that the older you become, the faster time goes. So I really don't, from my 30s to 40s, to me that sounded like 4 years, 5 years. But if you ask me from when I was 10 years old to my 20s, it was not only 10 years, it was maybe 15 years. It was so long, like everything is so new for your brain that you're just processing everything. After a while, when you've seen it all, it just, things becomes routine. And there's a book about why this happens, and I don't want to get into that. But yeah, but I would say in my early 30s, and the same time when we started business, the change of the morning routine was the most important thing that happened to me. I always knew, and my parents had always told me as well, it was something that my dad would always tell me, that if you want to be really successful, become an early riser. I didn't know exactly what that meant, But your parents tell you something like, all right, sure, we'll do it. But then years later, you get to it. They're like, oh. So I think I've shared that story with you before. There was this inkling within me that I knew I needed to do something. I wasn't happy with myself. I'm like, one thing that has always pushed me is I always know I have more potential that can be realized. That's very, very important. It's a good thing for everybody to feel that way, because that pushes you to go to that next level and do something different, break out of your comfort zone. So I just did a Google search, I don't know, 10 years ago, and put morning routine. And another thing we all do is we always think it's that next book that you read or in the next podcast that's going to change your life. Some of it is psychological. I was in the same thought process, and we're glad to tell you that actually worked for me. And that there was this one book that really changed. Searching, I noticed a lot of people are talking about this book called The Miracle Morning, and I wrote, which you already know. And I had no clue who this guy was. So I started watching his YouTube videos. His story, he died for 7 minutes in a car accident. So I was really fascinated. I don't know, maybe because he was local, he was in Sacramento or California, maybe that kind of, I created some sort of a connection with him as well. And so right away, I watched some YouTube videos and I downloaded his book on my Kindle, and I started reading it. And I think I read that book in 7, 8 days. It's a very simple book to read. I mean, it's like a third grader kind of book. Tell people this is the most important book of my life. They think, oh, this is a philosophical book that you need to focus. No, it's if your English is up to third grade, you can understand that book. That's what the book is. So I read that book, highlighted. Like, I should stop highlighting. I can't highlight anymore. The whole thing is highlighted. But the thing that really, really changed was, and again, I think I shared that with you. I don't know how many of us are blessed to read something and change your life on a daily basis based on that book for potentially the rest of your life. And that book has done that to me so far. Hopefully, it will continue that way. And that is the morning routine of getting up early, and doing these 6 things each 10 minutes on a daily basis. And I'm not perfectionist. I typically do 4 of those 6 or 5 max. I don't do the journaling. And just for your audience, just to know what that is, it's the abbreviation for the savers. I think S is silence, A is affirmation, V is visualization, E is exercise, R is reading, and then the last S is scribing, which is journaling. He couldn't find a word for it that would go. He didn't want to put J in there, so he put S. So savers, 10 minutes each, 60 minutes total. And that, I'm like, okay, I like this because this has a formula. I can just follow it. I created a little Google sheet to track it for myself, and I started doing it. And that was 2016, I believe. And I never looked back. So that was really, really a game changer and really changed me internally. And we can talk about that more later. But yeah, that was the biggest change that I've done internally to myself.
I love that you're so passionate about it, how much that changed you. Put you on the spot here. Feel free to say no, but would you share your sheet? I'd love to see like an example or what the questions are, or your Google sheet, and just to say, hey, like this is like not your deepest thoughts, but just like your kind of template there.
Yeah, I have so many other things on it, so I don't know if I can share, but it's really a basic Google sheet that they do have an app that you can actually download and track it yourself. Multiple habit trackers that you can download. And for mine, it just says TMM, the Miracle Morning. Did I do it or not? That's really a checkbox. And there was a time when I would have all 6 items if I did it that day or not. Now I'm just say TMM. It's a 0 or 1 pretty much. But in terms of what I track, I would highly recommend for everyone, just track it, even if it's bad. What time you go to bed, I track that because I had a problem with going to bed late. I'll be honest with you, I've been failing a little bit recently, especially with Warriors games starting. So I'm like, it's recorded and I watch it later. So that's a problem. But I always have a goal. Like I want to get to bed at like 10:30, right? 10:30 was failed. Sometimes I'm at 11:15. So I have two goals. 10:30 is beautiful. 11:15 is that's it. You're at that's why I get away from perfectionism. So I don't want to. So I try to track what time I go to bed. I put that every day, and then what time I wake up, and then if I do my miracle morning or I didn't do it. So those are like top three things. In my then that's another thing we can talk about that Darren Hardy. I can talk about my tracker. I'll call it DHT, the Daily Habit Tracker, and that has a lot of items now. And I recommend people start with the basic things that matter to them. And like Jim is on it, wake up time, going to bed time, miracle morning. Like I'm trying to do a little bit of Spanish now, so I have how many hours how many minutes actually I did Spanish. Reading is important to me. I put that. So anything that matters, I would say. And then I have dynamic ones where for a quarter I want to have one habit that I want to track. So I add it, and then next quarter I remove it. That I've been very successful with. Sometimes I look at it and I want to cry. I'm like, oh my God, I really failed this week. This is a bad week. But at least you see it, right? And that's what Darren Hardy says. If you don't know, if you start from San Francisco going to New York and your direction is a little, off, you're going to end up in Bahamas probably. But every week you're looking at it, at least you can adjust. And that's another thing I've done. When I mess up, I say, you know what, let's just, next day I'm going to compensate for that. If you do the next day mentality and stop talking negatively to yourself, that really, really makes an impact as well.
I think it's wonderful that you're giving yourself that grace. Say that tomorrow's a new day. And even like the tactic of 10:30 is the ideal time, but 11:15 is that, absolute time. And that way you don't have to beat yourself up as much.
I would say that's one of the biggest issues we have as human beings, right? We're always beating ourselves, we're judging ourselves too much. For that, I recommend the book. Is called, and I haven't read it myself to be fair. I have it on my to read it. And actually, Rory from Next Take the Stairs is one of the books that he highly recommends. It's called What to Say to Yourself When You Talk to Yourself, something like that. And it's a classic. Are you familiar with that book, or have you heard of it?
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. It's amazing when you talk to yourself differently, like how your mind changes right away. I mean, I practiced it yesterday when I was playing soccer, and trust me, it works. Like when you, but yeah, it is important. I think the biggest, and this is one of my areas of passion, the biggest thing people, including myself, that need to work on it is this self-criticism, self-judgment, being perfectionist. Everything needs to be a 1 or a green. I think that's something if we can work on and be comfortable with failing at things and knowing that that effort actually matters. I think you're going to move on and you're going to be successful. And that's what I would love to tell my kids one day, that, that's your failure is really a step towards success. So that's kind of what I'm trying not to be perfect track here and just accept it. It's red. All right, tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. We all need to hear that. Tell me about this. I want to kind of talk about the daily habit tracker, but also bring your culture into this. So tell me about your team, and I think you've shared that with them.
Yes. So daily habit tracker was the idea that we talked about the morning routine. That's something that really changed my life. The second thing that I would say changed my life after my morning routine was a couple of workshops and books that I attended and I read by Darren Hardy. And it's amazing when you spend money on workshops, you actually take it very seriously. About that. So we invested quite a bit in a couple of workshops by Darren Hardy. And one of the biggest things that I got out of that was the I call it daily habit tracker. I don't think that term came from him. DHT. And I just wanted to track the most important habits of my life, just to know. And then I have a dedicated time to do that. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times I don't do it on time. Like today at 9 p.m. is my review time. People do it on the last day of the week, like Sunday. Some people do it on Saturday. For me, it's Mondays. Unfortunately, sometimes it goes all the way to Tuesday if I don't get to it. And just to make it easy, if it matters, I don't use a little technical things, but I do have a habit tracker on my phone. So it's easy, like quick. And then I can always go to my habit tracker and put those numbers there as well. So in case, I don't get to open up my Google Sheet, it really takes me 10 seconds. And it's matching with my habit tracker. So I have it on an app and then I have it on my Google. So I don't think I need to talk too much about being able to track. It really is a life changer. You look at your areas that, wow, it's been about 2 weeks that I haven't been to bed at 10:30. It's always 11:15, 11:30. So you're just looking at it. And I'll be honest, sometimes it's really hard to look at it. Like self-judgment actually rises within you. And there's been weeks that I didn't do it. Like it hasn't been that many, but I can tell you in the last year, maybe there were a couple of weeks, 3 weeks that I'm like, it was so bad that I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just move on to the next week. But this idea, I thought about it and I'm like, how about we kind of create some fun in our company with this? And we ask all of our staff to choose one habit that they want to change within themselves, or it could be business related, it could be personal. And I kept it both so people are comfortable. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that a lot of people are actually putting their personal goals in there. A lot about working out, losing weight, learning a language, walking. So all these different things. And then you have some people that put a certification. I want to do 210 minutes per week for this certification, or whatever, 6-7 hours or 4 hours. So we started doing that, and it was the same thing. They actually used my template. So we just copy pasted my template. We just put the staff on it, and that's kind of our morning routine. When we have our morning routine at 8, our morning huddle, when we have it at 8:30, it's a quick 15-minute huddle. That's what we review and say, hey, how you doing? How did you do this? Yes, no, move on. So, and every time someone is kind of doing, kind of managing this call out, so we make sure everybody's involved. And then we have kind of a fun winner. We call them DHT master. That whether you look at it and someone is 100% or 110% or 90%. So we use Microsoft Forms. We send them a little link at the end of that 15-minute call. I think it's on Fridays for the previous week. And based on the name of everybody, and you vote who is the DHT master, and the person who wins it, I think they get about like a $50 Amazon gift card or $100, something like that. So we just made it fun and interactive, and the most important thing for us was just the huddle and people, being there and being involved a little bit. So we start the day by talking with each other. That was also important. But we've had people that really done great. We have a lot of successful engineers that are finishing up their certifications. I have many engineers that actually do a lot better than, I would say, management sometimes. I have engineers that had 210 minutes per week, and every week he's at 300, 400. So we do ask them to change it when we see they're doing really well, because we don't want, and we have a rule that you cannot be a DHT master 3 consecutive times. So you can win twice and then it goes to someone else. So it's like presidency.
It's good. That's timely. I think it's beautiful that you have a DHT master. You've shared your habits and habit tracking with your team. I think your hiring process is super interesting as well. Tell me more about how you even get to the 3-step interview process and the hiring ratio.
Yeah, well, it's painful at the same time. It's the ratio of hiring. I think it's got a lot better now, but it was a time I think out of 20 people that passed our first phase, we would get one. So we were at, I think that's a 5%. We were at 5%, and the amount of time we had to spend to get there was really hard. I think we're doing a little better now. I think we're at 10%. But yeah, in terms of our hiring process, first and foremost, we want to make sure we follow EOS, a lot of EOS, and they get it, they want it. The 3 characteristics that we look for. And for us, it's initially starts off with, and believe it or not, I've kind of forgotten the process because I haven't hired myself in a long time. I'm really the last person right now that just does a quick 10, 15-minute culture fit hiring. I do that part. There was a time I was involved from A to Z. Right now, I'm really involved. Like today, we have someone that is coming to our office. This is the last one. It's going to be 10 minutes, 15 minutes from my side to be involved in just making sure this person culturally fits into our culture. So I'll try to remember some of the high level things that we do. We do have 3 different interviews. And the first one, first and foremost, we start off with, and it might be able to change now, but we had actually an online kind of a test that they would go through just to get a feel about where they are. These are the questions we devised internally just to get a feel about where they're standing technically. These are for engineers. And then from there's our team leads and service manager. They would have a second interview with that person. And then we have a practical lab test, which is a real computer and real set of environment that they come in and they need to troubleshoot things. And then the last one is what we're doing today, which is Iman and I would have the last interview in terms of the cultural fit and some cultural questions. And right now, because of a lot of our team members are remote, all of this we've done, even our lab environment, we've done it remote. So this is actually the very first time that we're going to meet this person in person. So, and sometimes when you see people in person, it's a little different, like the energy, the vibe. So that's what I'm going to be looking for today, to see if this is the right person that would feed our culture. And then from there, the final decision is made. I could have given you a lot more exciting stuff about our hiring, but I've kind of I haven't done it in such a long time that the initial phases that I don't exactly remember, but it was time consuming. It is still time consuming, but it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. I mean, when you get an A player, makes a huge difference in the level of stress that they bring into your work, their interactions with the clients, the value that they bring in. Like I always tell everybody, pay a little more and get someone, you're going to get 10x back person in terms of your time saved, in terms of creating rapport with your clients, in terms of selling even sometimes. So those are some of the things I learned, some I would say the hard way, but now we're putting it in practice.
Why is it important to you to have such a rigorous or non-traditional hiring process?
I don't know if it's non-traditional at this point. It is longer than some other companies because, again, the same thing that I mentioned. It's like, I mean, if you think of it as it's someone that, think about when you want to marry someone, right? The due diligence, you do all the days you go, you meet the families. It's going to be a long-term thing. And if you can see that this person can save you this much time, this much stress, this much anxiety, bring in this much revenue because they can create trust. They have a good, they're intelligent. They have high EQ. EQ is a big one for us, so we do a test on that. They have high EQ and IQ. You really see the intangibles that we don't really see when we're hiring. You're like, you know what? It's worth the pain. Let's do this. But one other thing that we've done great. I told you I don't even remember it anymore because I believe we've done a pretty good job delegating the 90% of it now to people, and they actually like it. Like our service manager and our team leads, they want to be involved. They want to have a say into this, and that's part of growing and growing as a company and becoming a little more mature. So it's their choice. If whoever I choose today, it's actually their own choice. So there's a lot of ownership in that from everybody, and there's accountability.
Mm. I think that's shows how much you care, and that you decided to put more rigor in when you already have so much to do. Your team has so much to do. It'd be easier to just say we're busy. Let's pick somebody, which is maybe a short-term gain, but not a long-term gain at all.
And
Speaking of,
you are familiar with MSP, the MSP industry. It's not technical all the time. Half of what we do is communicating with the clients, it's interactions, it's a relationship management. And this is what I recommend to all MSP owners. You understand that engineer is also not only a technical engineer, is a relationship engineer. They're going to be interacting with your clients, and that's going to be very important.
I think that's well said. I want to talk about relationships, but I want to get into why you maybe pivoted or changed from healthcare to, of all industries, nonprofit. I mean, that's where most people in the MSP industry cringe. So, but you did that very intentionally. So why did you do that?
Yeah. So one of the things that we started doing about 2 years ago, I started getting a sales coach, and we went through training, sales coaching, and I believe a lot into training. Like I believe in training. I believe in spending about 5% of our revenue into learning and training and giving and putting it into education. And one of the big things that came out of that was, hey, sit down and rate your clients. Just sit down and rate your clients. Just see where these clients are. And there are some tangible stuff that you put in that. It's an Excel sheet. It's like a bunch of columns that you just put your name of your clients and their size, location. And then you can put you put your revenue that you get from them. And there's like some intangibles, like level of like overhead that they have, stress level. Like there's some good questions that is involved in that. And when we did this client evaluation form, we looked at, and at the end of the day, we realized that we really like working with our nonprofit clients. They're like ranking high. They're actually pretty good with profitability. So on the tangible numbers and the metrics, they were doing great. But at the same time, we realized we really enjoy working with them. And there's a human element involved in the conversations all the time. Of course, they're not profit focused, so it kind of changes the whole dynamic. And based on that, another thing that we looked at, we're in California, we looked at the number of nonprofits we have here. So we did a little search on the number of nonprofits. We want to work with nonprofits that are maybe 25, 30 user plus. So we looked at that as well, and it's a great number of them. But the more important thing for me was there were a couple of intangible reasons for that. First, I think I alluded to it. I think it creates a sense of purpose and joy into our work. Because we as a company ourselves, we started doing a quarterly initiative called Giving Back. And this Giving Back initiative is an initiative that we ask one of our employees that is in tune with the program to choose a charity of their liking, and then we get involved with that charity. Sometimes purely financial, sometimes we actually go help out. If there's for our team, we have some of our team members are in the Philippines. They actually were there physically helping out and putting the program together. And so think about that. Now your team members are actually involved in something bigger than IT. And that Giving Back initiative to me kind of told me that maybe these are actually the clients we also want to work with. And some of them we might have to go with lower cost, and we understand that. But at least it's for a good cause. It's like giving back. Really, that's another way of giving back. So we looked at the intangible. We understood that this gives us a sense of joy and purpose, and it's hard to get that in IT. I'm like, all right, that's a great shortcut. There you go. You want to create some sort of meaning into your work? This is what it is. So that was a big one for us. And then the other thing that it's kind of a more personal thing for me is I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. So that, 5 years, 10 years from now, my direction would be changed. And I definitely want to do something with the nonprofit industry. That's what brings me joy and brings me a sense of purpose. And I thought, what's better than being involved in this industry and learn all the hoops and all the things that we need to learn, and being exposed to it. You get to know a lot of people, you create a lot of connections, a lot of relationships. So I was like, this could be a learning lesson for me. And I know Iman's also on the same page because he wants kind of to do the same thing. How about we take this also as a class and learn, create those connections? So I'm like, I just saw a lot of things that are aligned with what we want to do. And for that reason, we decided to kind of move, is the word move, but at least change our priority from healthcare, because healthcare was our number one industry that we were working with, to nonprofit industry. So, and put everything aside, in the world of MSP, we call it TCP, target client profile. It's not TCP from networking, it's the TCP from marketing. Think about when you have a TCP, you can really, really narrowly focus on what you want to do. Now I can go and do speaking engagements for nonprofits. We can have dedicated blogs for them. We're having a podcast for nonprofits. When you don't have focus, how would you even think of what do we do? Like, okay, I want to do a podcast for small businesses. It might work, but it's very, very vague and broad. Now I can go and find 300 nonprofits in California and say, hey, we have a virtual event. Come join us on our webinar. Last week I was on a webinar with 40 executive directors of nonprofits, and the topic was how to use AI to get grants and make the application more optimized. Like, that's the level of granularity that you can go in and the value that you can bring for your clients, for your nonprofit clients. Now, this is not related to your question, but I highly recommend for all the owners and MSPs, if they can focus on an industry, and that doesn't mean you don't take on other industries, but your outbound efforts are more towards that one industry because we have limited time and resources.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I was just happy that they paid the bill. And then as you grow, you realize there is only so many hours in a day. There are finite resources, not only myself, but my team. And so I think universal across all the fast growing MSPs is that maybe you don't turn down other industries yet, but you focus your efforts on the industry that's the best fit for you. And I think it's okay to say that, and you're gaining more than you lose. And I think we need to give others more courage to admit that. And you're one of the only ones I've had that said, I'm going to choose nonprofits. And healthcare, you still do, but a lot of people choose it, I think, because it's the largest industry there is. So, maybe there's different motivations, but, whatever your focus should be, I think is something that took me entirely too long to come to.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. When you say nonprofits, some people are like, really? Yes. But again, even financially, we looked at it, at least for our clients, primarily in California. The numbers were good for us.
So tell me about you were giving a talk on AI for how to help with grants. There's some interesting things there to me. One is because you're so niche, you can talk with those executive directors. AI, obviously, something that I think everybody's trying to get their arms around. And then grants is how they operate. So that'd be like getting a normal, outside nonprofit world, customer more revenue. And what's really interesting to me about that is we're always so focused on the back end, the operational efficiencies, which, it's great, but it's interesting to me that you're helping them win, figure out how to use AI to win grants. So how did you end up with that wonderful idea?
I want to say that idea is part of a bigger philosophy that we follow at TruAdvantage. And the bigger philosophy is we help our clients optimize their workflow. That's really what we look at. It's really operationally optimizing them. And IT is a big part of it. But what else can we do that could be partially IT related and impact that operational flow? Organizations that IT is not involved, and it's an opportunity to be. And grants, and that is one of those opportunities. Is it directly related to your IT team? Maybe not. But if you're really a technology partner, not a vendor to your clients, maybe you should think about that. Maybe this is an area that makes you different, and it truly makes you a VCIO that you claim you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if many MSPs claim to have CIO services or virtual CIO services, and I think based on the industry you're working at, there's going to be some bullet points that you can actually focus on and work on. Like in the construction industry, it's different. For nonprofits, as you mentioned, it's grants, and grants is their livelihood, right? So how can we help them? A lot of these executive directors, a lot of these management and leadership team members, some of them are actually afraid of technology. Like they have a hard time. Some of them already very concerned with AI. Like they did not even they were not comfortable actually with it too much. But how, as a technology partner, what is the role that you're playing there? What kind of partner are you as an MSP? So for us, we want to be at the higher level of involvement with our clients, and that's why we've helped our clients even with HR integration apps. We help them out with accounting integration apps, things that are not really directly connected to IT, but we can help them out. I'm with the experts, and I think you should do that. There are HR consultants that you can get and help them out, but you can play a role, be that third party that helps them out through the process, or get things started for them. So, and I think that's one of the most important differentiating factors you can create in your company, to go beyond IT and help them out with business operations and workflows. So workflow right now is an area we evaluate for our prospects when we get a new prospect. There are questions that we ask them about how they do this and how they do that. As to nonprofits, one of our questions that we ask during our discovery process is, tell me a little bit about, like, how do you guys have revenue? How does the revenue come in? Which is mostly grants, and who does your grants? How do you do it? So those are some of the questions that I would encourage everyone to take a look and see, how can I customize these questions for the industry that I work the most, and then actually help them out. So that's part of that philosophy of the being a true tech partner and a CIO to them.
Partnering and getting past keeping the lights on or the things that plug into the wall is amazing. Speaking of that, I think there's a lot of folks that do have a good amount of fear about AI. What do you see your role, at least currently, with AI?
I mean, personally, so far, I really enjoy working with AI. I use it a lot. I use it in my, when I'm creating presentations, there's a lot of marketing automation that you can do with it. There's a fear factor to it as well of where we're going. I believe there's going to be some jobs that are going to be lost. I think it's already affected me in terms of not hiring certain people anymore. I used to work with a lot of contractors. I would hire a lot of contractors, sometimes from people I knew, sometimes from Upwork. But I've always seen these, and I've always seen that, like when the computers came around and people thought a lot of jobs, it gets replaced and new jobs gets created. It might be more high-level jobs, but definitely there's going to be some people that are going to be obsolete. We use Canva, even with just having a basic account with Canva, the things you can do with a click of a button, the branding that you can do with Canva. These are all the hours that 10 years ago when I wanted to do this, I had people working on these things and spend hours and hours on it. So jobs would be one issue. Honestly, I don't know where it's going to go. The other part about AI, which is more on the philosophical side, is this is the fastest growing technology that we've seen, faster than internet, faster than computers. And there's a lot of unknowns that we don't know about with the ratio of the growth that this thing has, and it can evolve in itself. There's a time that this thing is not going to need our feedback in order to evolve. It can actually evolve based on its own code and its own artificial intelligence. So that's another thing that if there's no human interaction and human feedback into this, where would this go?
Do you see an opportunity just to sit with them and try to say, we have a lot of uncertainty? Do you actually see that right now it's the time to engage and do things that actually drive revenue, or actually do things to actively help the client? Or maybe just some people I think are sitting on the sidelines as owners of MSPs because they're just like, I don't even know what to do because it is changing so fast.
Definitely, I would not sit on the site. There's definitely areas that you can start using it, unless you decide, no, I don't want to ever touch this, but I don't see a reason why you wouldn't use it in your marketing, why you wouldn't use it in your graphics, why you wouldn't use it when you're creating contents for your different things that you do. So there's many good uses for it. And get involved, learn. And then there's the Microsoft side of things that now you can actually integrate this for your clients and help them out, integrate this with like Flow and all the things that you can do, and then Copilot, and then the automation that you can help out your clients. We have one client that does a lot of Excel formatting, and we haven't offered this yet, but I was talking to this person and I'm like, wow, AI would really help them out to automate a lot. So there's a lot of value you can bring in for your clients. And I know there are some new MSPs that are actually making AI one of their, I don't want to use the word maybe department, one of their specialties where, hey, we can bring in AI, and so your accountant or your controller doesn't need to spend 10 hours per week to do this manually. You can bring it down to 2 hours. Well, guess what? Mm-hmm. Even if you provide bad service and you are bringing this, you are stuck to this client. They love you. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to make you different, and that's going to change your stickability.
Yeah. I think it's. Do you see an opportunity to help educate those executive directors or other employees? Because maybe how to use the tools, like there's the education of like how to use the AI tools, or just because it's unprecedented change. Of course, as humans, I think there's a lot of fear, uncertainty. Will it replace me? Should I use it? What if I use it? They'll realize it can replace me. What do you think our role should be as that true integrated CIO?
That's a good question. Well, I was giving you an example about the last week meeting with these 40 executive directors. For them, definitely there was no fear, I would say, because this was not replacing anyone. They typically have people that help them out. They use outsourced consultants from what we've seen in the industry to help them out with grants. There might be some that use internal staff, but typically when it gets to outsourced consultants, they're more than happy to be using AI and not be worried about replacing that. So was a pretty good and pretty welcomed conversation by a lot of these executive directors. I don't have enough information to share with you about replacing internal staff. But what I would say, if you are an MSP or you have this, make sure you don't say this to the person who's actually doing the work. Maybe you start off with the manager or someone at the higher level to tell them, hey, this person and this person, or this position and this position, there's a lot of automation we can bring in to help you out with AI. And that becomes a management question there. And a lot of managers might be a lot more open than the person who's actually doing the work themselves. But even the person that is doing the work themselves, a lot of this work is repetitive and they don't want to do it. So if you can find a language that kind of puts them at ease, that you're not being replaced, but you're going to get 5 hours back to do something else. you put 40 hours per week. So you're not changing 40 hours. It's, hey, instead of 7 hours, you're just going to spend 2 hours now on this and help you out. So it really depends on that conversation and how it gets approached as well. But there might be a position that is 40 hours and you can replace the whole 40 hours. And I would say, yeah, definitely don't have that conversation with that person. Maybe have that conversation with the manager or the director or someone who kind of sees things from a higher level.
Let me switch gears. So, Kayvan, what's the biggest lesson you've learned over all your years as an MSP?
I want to say the biggest lesson that I've learned is, I think we talked about it already. External change starts from internal change. And that's something that I did not believe as much till I started my own business and I became serious about it. I realized all the mental limitations I had when I started my business. I realized all the areas that I was lacking discipline when I started my business. I realized all the changes I needed to do and how short time is. These are the things that I wasn't really paying attention to in the past. I've always been blessed with a bit of, my dad used to call it the inner light. I always had this inner light of knowing that there's potential in me and we can do more. But you slack off, you get, right? I talked about, we think we have time. You're young. Who cares? You get up at 11 a.m. in the morning. It's just another day out of thousands of days that you're going to have. But when I started my business, every day became important to me. And so many questions and areas that I realized I really need to work on those areas. And maybe it's been my ego that was just telling me I was okay, but I was not even okay in those areas. I was actually subpar in those areas. And that I owe it to having a business and having the ambition to making the business, at least growing it, on a regular basis. So that inner change was the biggest unknown thing that I never thought would come out of an IT business. But it did. And I owe it to that. And so that's been really, really, honestly, I owe it to business. I know it brings a lot of stress and, negative things as well, because now you are it. Everything ends at you. So a lot of accountability, and that accountability grows you. That's another beautiful thing. And that's why you want to go back and have that inner growth, because if you don't have that, the ceilings are not going to be broken.
Oh, well said. If there was one thing you could go back and do differently or do over, what would that be?
That is a good question. If there was one thing I could do a little differently, is I would have started the EOS implementation sooner in our business. And we started that in, I think, 2017, 18. I wish I had done that in 2014. I mean, it's not a big regret or anything, but 3 years, I mean, could have played a big role. And so I actually have its book right here. That's the EOS. So that was another big life changer for us at the business level. And we started off a little, actually, compared to other people, it wasn't that late, but that would be one thing I would have done differently. We were just we were roaming around when we started. We had no clue what we were doing. I was not disciplined. I was, at times, I was late to work, or we weren't serious about it. Really, we weren't serious about who we want to be, because our belief system was really small at the time. And we're going to be a company of 3, 4, 5 people. That was our thought process. And that's how it's going to be. I mean, I wanted to go bigger, but I didn't know how. And EOS really, really helped me out, along with peer groups. Those two really, really made a big difference. But I wish I had done EOS when I was like in 2015. And we started off just going to a coffee shop and having our EOS meetings when we started. And from that point on, every week now I was accountable to show how much progress we've had, and that really changed. And everything that comes with it, the accountability groups that you meet, the peer groups that you meet out of it. There's a lot of byproducts of the EOS for us. And I know there's different philosophies that people follow. One of them is EOS, the other one is the Rockefeller habits or Rockefeller? There's like 2-3 different school of thoughts that people follow. Whatever it is, make sure you do it and you stick by it. But that's something that I believe you started a little late. I wish we had started in the first or second year of a foundation.
What's a myth about running an MSP that you'd like to see debunked?
I want to say the biggest thing that a lot of people, if they think of MSPs, they think MSPs are really just another vendor that would help you out, as you said, with technical items, anything that plugs into to help them out. To me, managed service providers, especially in the last 5 years, they are much more than that. We talked about the CIO services. We talked about claiming to have that. The biggest myth to me is you're not a technician. You are a solution provider. And make sure you understand the difference and actually create your processes and solutions based on that. I think we've had great progress in that in the last 5-6 years because of all the peer groups and all the education. The MSP industry is one of the most connected industries that I've seen. The events that everybody does together, the education that everybody gets. So for that, we are very blessed. Resources are out there. It's at your fingertips, events that you can attend. And the first thing and most important thing that you're going to see there is, if you have a client that they still call you a vendor, you have a problem. You should not be called a vendor. You should be called a partner. And there's a big difference between the two. And for a lot of people, especially when they start as an MSP, they feel like you are that technician. And that's who we want to be. But guess what? You and me are talking about AI for application writing of nonprofits. If you put that line and you just don't give anybody a context and say, what kind of people do this? I don't think you're going to get the word MSP out of that. But that's really where we are, or maybe more evolved MSPs are that way. But I would say that's the biggest myth that people need to be aware of and act on it.
I couldn't agree more, right? If you position yourself to truly help drive business value and you're not just there to resell the product line you have or the widgets, then they'll come to you with all kinds of interesting problems and challenges. And, if you can become their trusted confidant instead of just, somebody else to compare bids with every few years and see if they renew your service, then that's a entirely different level of trust.
And that's a very good point you brought up. And that's what I always tell our team members when I talk to them. Pay attention to the question that the client is asking. If they're asking you about business, high level, even personal questions that, like, we had a client that wanted to watch baseball on his TV, and he would come to me and a couple of other people and, hey, how do I stream this and that? I know this was not the highest business operation question, but at least the relationship was at a level that he trusted us. He kind of considered us as their internal team. But yeah, questions that they ask us is going to matter. Are they comfortable to ask you questions? Hey, I'm evaluating this third-party vendor for our HR platform. Can you be on that meeting? Do you get a question like that? That's actually a metric right there for you. So, and we actually have that written down in our documentation, that pay attention to these questions and make sure not everything is about technical. We're actually being asked about high-level business questions and they want us to be involved in there. That shows you your level of partnership.
Given all that's going on, Kayvan, what are you looking forward to right now?
I want to say the most exciting thing to me has been always growth. And I know everybody probably might think the same, but actually growth to me is really exciting. To me, it's being able to take TruAdvantage to the next level that we have in mind. Every year we kind of look at our vision and take a look at that, and if we need to adjust our vision, being able to deliver on our vision and get to that vision, to me, is the most exciting thing. It's always exciting. So that's one thing. The other thing is all the new learning and teachings that are out there that we're going to be going through. We belong to multiple accountability groups and peer groups, so I'm always looking forward to be attending those events and educational events that we attend as with my peers and learn. The learning part is really, really exciting. So those are really it's not really technical. It's really just the relationships and then the learning and the education that we are going through. That's really exciting for me. So those are really some of the things. And then after that, hopefully it would be learning what I learned here and being able to apply the leadership skills and entrepreneurial skills, hopefully to a nonprofit one day.
I can see that. I'm sure that'll be an amazing day. I know you covered a ton of books, but I just wanted to come back to, out of all the books, what's the number one book you recommend?
The number one book, it's not going to be, there's so many amazing books, and I talked about The Miracle Morning as well. But the number one book that really, really I recommend to everyone is a book called The Power of Now. It's actually a spiritual book, are told. And that book, I read that book about 20 years ago, and that book really, really changed my perspective about our life, our existence, and how I kind of perceive the physical reality. And I'm originally from Iran, so I have that Middle Eastern philosophy behind me in terms of the spiritualism. So I've always known that. But Power of Now from a Western perspective, it really, really put it all together for me. And just practice 10% of that book, I'll be a very happy person. I know that for sure. But that book is definitely a game changer, a life changer. I remember I was driving on the Bay Bridge one day here. And honestly, as soon as I got off the bridge, I had to stop and it was an Audible at the time. And I had to stop and just evaluate things. I can never forget that moment. That wow, I had a couple of aha moments that I was like, wow, this is really, really amazing. I had to go read the book 5 more times after that. Audible would not do it. But, Power of Now for me would be the one book. If I had to read one book, it would be Power of Now.
It's a great recommendation. So Kayvan, for all those that are interested in finding you online, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, our website is TruAdvantage.com, which is TruAdvantage.com. So that's our website. If you go I'm there. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. We're pretty active on LinkedIn. Those are really the top 2 places. We have a pretty good YouTube channel as well, pretty active. So those are 2-3 channels and areas that our team, and I'm also being the proxy of the team, are pretty active on that. We'll be more than delighted to connect.
That's so good. Well, this has been a blessing to have you on MSP Mindset. Thank you so much for the gift of your time and your wisdom today.
My pleasure, Damien. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful day, and hopefully it would be a beautiful day for your audience as well.